So today I'm proud to introduce the founder and chairman of ActionCOACH, Brad Sugars. Brad's a lifelong entrepreneur, sought-after professional speaker, best-selling author, and devoted family man to his wife, Lauren, and their 5 children. Calling in today live from Las Vegas. Brad, how you doing, mate?
Good, good. Yeah, you mentioned the 5 kids, and it's like, yes, there are 5 of those little suckers. What are you going to do?
What
keep
ages?
working, keep working. Our eldest is 17 and youngest is 17 months. So we got a good spread.
Good spread.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, my name's Brad Medellin, your host for the Comeback Game podcast today. Brad, pretty pumped to have you on board, mate. You've achieved a lot in a somewhat relatively short period of time. So for those of them out there who may have not heard about you yet, which might be impossible if they're a business owner, can you tell us a bit about you? And,
if they're a business owner and they haven't heard of me, they have not been looking to grow their business. Let's just put it that way. And I doubt they're on your show if they haven't been looking for growing their business. So that's the interesting thing. Barry, look, I started in business as a young man, and always what I've done is buy, build, and sell companies. That's my job. I buy a good company, or in the early days, I bought broken companies and fixed them. And now what I've learned to do is I'm more like, I like to think of like Ray Kroc. If you saw that movie, The Founder, where basically it should have been called The Finder. He didn't found McDonald's. One day he stumbled across this business and said, wow, look here what I found. So I do that. I find companies that I think are great companies and that should be global. And usually I have like 1 or 2 offices when I first start with them. And so, we just sold out of a property management company that was based out of Texas. When I bought in, it was a single office. We expand. And halfway through that expansion, another group comes and says, we'd like to buy you instead of you buying us. We're like, price is right. Let's do a deal. But they're the sort of things that I do. And then ActionCOACH and all of my books came because every business I run, I find I get different lessons from it. I get different learnings. And so I start writing books based on what I learned from each business, like buying customers. That was written because of my dog food business. This latest one, pulling profits out of a hat. It was actually written because a mate of mine said to me, it just seems like magic the way these companies keep growing and stuff. I said, that magic is not really magic, right? Because, we live here in Las Vegas. Maybe he actually believes that. I don't know.
Yeah. One of your books that was an absolute game changer for me was Billionaire in Training.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was the name because it's been a game changer for so many people. Why was it a game changer for you? I'm going to spin this back and ask you the question.
Yeah, great question. I guess I'd read many of your other books. So I think first and foremost, I had a kitchen and bathroom manufacturing business about 9 years ago. I finished up in that business 9 years ago. And I essentially built myself a multi-million-dollar job. And so Instant Systems was the first book that I came across. Instant Systems, Instant Referrals, and there was a cash flow one. And then there was a long period of time where I left that. Some things happened, reborn, refound myself again. And I found the business coach in training. And that was fantastic. I got a lot out of that. And then I was like, so much out of that, I was like, what's next? And I was like, Billionaire in Training. It seemed to be quite different. It was almost like the unicorn out of the rest of your books.
Yeah.
And when I read that, it flipped the idea and the trajectory in which I was going through business in.
Yeah.
It took it from me just operating a business or assisting others to operate businesses to go, hang on, how can I kind of almost make this as a game and look at that whole flip? And it changed my perspective of how I started to see the leverage I could create within my business, and have since then gone into several companies as a result of that one book alone.
Yeah. I see a lot of people studying Billionaire in Training and especially, so those who've never had a business read Billionaire in Training and realize, holy heck, I really should be in business for myself because that's where real wealth is created.
Yeah.
Now you flip that over and you see people who are running one business and they go, hang on, all this stuff I just learned about sales, I can apply that to any business. All this stuff I just learned about marketing, I can apply that to any business. This leadership, this management, this finance, accounting. So things you learn in any business can be applied to any business. And that's really, I guess, the fundamental core. And your job through Billionaire in Training is to start out as an employee, or you start actually as a student. You're a level -1. So, as a student, you cost society money. You cost your parents or society. Eventually, you get to pay back that by getting a job. You pay some taxes to pay society back for everything you learned. And then if you're smart enough, you go and become a manager or a leader in a company. And if you're smarter, you take that knowledge and start your own business. Now, everyone, I don't know about you, Barry, but I started out as a solopreneur, one-person business. Now I'm lucky enough we have thousands of people all over the world. But, as a single-person business, you had to be on that seesaw, find the work, do the work, find the work, do the work. And you learn that. And then eventually I employed some people, got on the merry-go-round. I thought employing people would make my life easier. It did the exact opposite. It meant I had more fires to put out because that's all they did. Because, again, I wasn't a good manager or leader. And this is where I think I love Billionaire in Training, because it outlines you've got to learn all of these things as you go. If you want to step up the ladder of the Billionaire in Training, you've got to keep learning.
Yeah.
And you can't get to being a business owner based on my definition, a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. You can't get to be an owner until you've learned to be a manager and learned to be a leader and learned to do all those things. So,
yeah,
mate, I love that book, and it's currently being rewritten. So we're in the process of rewriting all the books and then re-recording them all for audiobooks. Although,
wow.
Yeah, well, there's 17, so there's 15 of them being rewritten. So it's a little bit of work.
Mate, congratulations. I think as well, like we're in a very similar field. And I think, for me, I see a lot of business people, and I know myself, I went into business back in the day because in many ways I was quite arrogant, thought I knew it all, and didn't want to keep working for my boss. Like I was a bit of a rule breaker, and I went into business.
My boss is an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I can make a ton more money and have a bunch more free time. And then a year later, I realized that I had a job that paid me less, and I worked more hours than working for someone else.
Yeah, it's the old you thought you worked for an idiot before thing,
Well, when I left, I was like, oh man, like who's going to teach me now? Like my opportunity to learn is gone. There was this bit of a realization of like, wow, I didn't capitalize on my past employers enough until I realized, well, hang on, this is where the real learning actually starts right now on the field, because I'm accountable for getting paid every week. I'm accountable for my staff getting paid every week. I'm accountable for this thing either sinking, swimming, or succeeding.
Yeah, either you eat what you kill once you're the owner, and it's like that's the thing. So listen, I watch a lot of people go into business for themselves, and the reason they fail is they never actually become a business owner. Now, what I mean by that is they still think like an employee. They're still waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They're still waiting for the answers to be given to them rather than going, hang on, I got to do this. I got to find out how. I got to go and get it done. So,
yeah. Tell me though, let's go back a little bit. Like I think from memory, you started ActionCOACH in 1994.
93, yeah. 93, end of 93.
Where did this all start? So pre-ActionCOACH.
So I was running. So I'd been in different businesses, and where it actually really kicked off is I attended a seminar with Robert Kiyosaki, and Rob became very famous with Sharon Lecter for the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. But Robert asked me to come and speak, and I went to Hawaii and was teaching about 300 entrepreneurs over there because I was a young, successful businessman. And people were like, how did you get successful so young? What did you do different to everyone else? And I couldn't believe that people would own their own business and not learn all that stuff. Like, it was like, hang on, you're in business and you didn't read all the books on sales and all the books on marketing. And why'd you not do that? But anyway, if everyone knew what they were doing, I wouldn't have a business. So therefore, I'm pretty happy that a lot of people are good technicians and need to learn how to be good business owners. Yeah. But when I fell in love with being on stage, I started doing a lot of that. And people would come to me at the end of it and say, hey, can you help us? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm running my own business and doing a bunch of these speaking things. I don't really have any time. But listen, if you call me every week, I'll kind of coach you on how to do that sort of thing. And so after speeches that I'd be giving, I'd get 4 or 5 people that would ask for that. And I can't say I'm the quickest tool in the shed, but after about 100 people asked me, I thought, damn, I probably should create a business doing that. So hence here we are 26 years later. ActionCOACH is now we just opened in Russia last month. So we're now coaching in 80 something countries, 3 communist countries. I love that China, Vietnam and Russia, we're coaching entrepreneurs. So kind of a cool thing.
Clients globally, is that right?
Our one-to-one clients is about 18,000 in our one-to-one clients. Our group coaching clients in our monthly programs is about 200 and something thousand. It's 260, 270,000. So there's a ton of them. But, when you look at it as a percentage of the small businesses or mid-sized businesses out there, it's minute. Yeah. But I honestly think that eventually everyone will have a business coach. I honestly think that, you start out, and I use the American vernacular of accountant, attorney, and action coach because it's the 3 A's. And I just think that, eventually everyone will have all 3 A's. They'll know on day one of starting a business, you need to get a coach.
Yeah.
Whereas when I started out, people were like, a business coach? What's that? Is that like a consultant?
Yeah.
Nowadays, though, we've gone full circle. We went from a period there where people thought, oh, if you're failing, you should go and get a business coach.
Yeah.
To now what we see happening is people are in the phase of, oh, you're doing good, you need a coach so you can do great, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, it's like when you play tennis as a kid, you don't actually get a coach until your parents realize you're any good.
Yeah. Yeah. The uptake in America around the coaching industry seems to be far ahead of Australia. Australia is slowly catching on. They do predict within the next 5 to 10 years that everyone will have a coach, like not just business owners, but everyday mum and dads as well, to help them out with issues around health, financial relationships, things like that. I guess, like, I see so many business owners that are struggling and are just not willing to get out of their own way.
Yeah, mate, look, it's a pretty tough thing to take on a coach in some ways, because you got to remember, you go into business for yourself because you think you can do it, and you back your own judgment. And to admit that you need a coach, I can understand how some people see that as a failure, as saying, listen, I don't need a coach. I can do this on my own. And listen, if you can get over that bullshit in your head, if you can get over that and realize that only the best of the best have coaches, then hey, presto. Now, if you're struggling, most of the time it's because you've got your head buried in the sand and you're not learning the new ways of doing things. It's because you're still doing it the same old way that you've always done it. And unfortunately, mate, I hate to tell you, but they're not on your podcast. Those people are not here listening to us today. The ones listening are the ones who know they got to keep learning and keep growing, because the moment you stop growing, your business stops growing. So if you want your business to keep growing, you got to keep learning, because otherwise you can't keep your employees growing, and therefore they can't grow your business for you.
Yeah, I honestly believe that we don't have business problems. We have personal problems that get expressed through our business. And,
I think some businesses do actually have business problems. It's called shitty products and services. But most of the time, yes, it's a human. Business is about people. If you can't, like, the language of business is numbers, but the success of business is about people. I learned it from my dad when I was a young man. He said, listen, Brad, it's very simple. In business, you get the people you deserve. If you're a good manager and a good leader running a good company, you'll get good people. If you're a great manager and great leader running a great company, you'll get great people. However, if you're an average manager running an average company, you get the highest caliber of employee you're going to get is average. So, yeah, he smacked me between the eyes with that one when I was in my early 20s. So really, you can see where I got my motivational streak from, obviously.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah. Let's talk about failure for a second. This is the Comeback Game podcast. Now, I know that there's no way that you've gotten to where you are right now and influencing, impacting the number of people without going through some pretty dark times. So I'd love to know, like, what has been one or even a couple of times that you've been through that have been pretty dark, pretty challenging, that have actually become the greatest triumphs and taught you the most in life?
It's interesting, because even the tiny little ones where you get off stage after a seminar and everyone hated your event, and it's like I've realized there's no such thing as a bad audience, there's just a bad presenter. And when I did a shitty job on stage, then of course people didn't like it. But still, the toughest times were when people decided they needed my money more than I did and took the money and did a runner and that sort of thing. And I remember being left holding the bag to the tune of $500,000. And just sitting there. I remember moving back in with my parents, and I still remember lying in bed one morning. My dad came in. His dad back in the store.
Some more motivation.
He just looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing?" So I don't know. I think I'm going to go back and get a job. And he looks me dead in the eye and he goes, "Well, what's the problem?" So, well, this and this. And he said, "Well, can you make a list of what's going to fix it?" Yeah. So you've made $1 million. Yeah. So you know how to make $1 million. Yeah. The problem's $500,000. Yeah. Well, it should take you half the time. Off you go. It's like, because that's the greatest thing, though, is you don't lose the knowledge. Even though you go through negative results and things, you don't lose the knowledge. I've had a couple out of my 50 odd companies I've bought and started. I've had a couple of losers. But, you know, they train you to be a hard ass negotiator sometimes. I remember when the GFC hit and we had a massive loan on one of our companies, a motorhome and RV business, and selling big buses and stuff, which you're not going to sell too many of those when the economy's tanked. The retirees aren't going out spending $500,000 on a big luxury bus to travel around Australia. But, you know, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to study through all of that stuff and get advice from the right people. And, you know, I think that's the way through any negative time, is surrounding yourself with the right people. The problem is, at the time, you don't know who the right people are. You know, and that's always the biggest challenge, is who are the right people to have around me. And that's where, if you make sure you've got good people around you in the good times, then they're still going to be around in the tough times. So,
yeah. They say that your net worth equates to your network. Yeah,
look, there's lots of great sayings like that, but I think that your net worth comes down to how much you didn't spend out how much you made. And having good people around you means you spend less than you make. And so it's one of those things. I honestly believe that business people can achieve a lot more than what they set out to do. And I'm going to be very blunt to Australians right now. Aussies are some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. The reason why is Australia sucks the living daylights out of you as an entrepreneur. We have the highest taxation rates, or some of the highest taxation rates in the world. We literally have a socialist employment structure, you know, 2.5 times pay, 1.5 times pay, 17% extra leave loading, 4 weeks vacation, 13. How many days, personal days do we have to give now in Australia? Some ridiculous bloody number. And you sit there and you think about it and you go, how does anyone actually, like when I tell people overseas the minimum wage in Australia is like, what's it now, $26 an hour or some ridiculous number?
Yeah.
I tell that to my friends here in America and they look at me like, oh, you're lying. There's no way in the world $26 an hour. And I have to pull it up online and show it to them. And they just look at me and go, how does anyone survive in Australia? How does any business actually make it? Now, the reason I say all that is combine that with massive distribution costs, a very well-educated market, international companies coming in, selling into the marketplace and selling it at a cheaper rate because they do business in Asia or America where the wages are ridiculously lower. If you can succeed in Australia and you don't go global, I ought to come down there and slap you upside the head, because Australia is a tough market. And if you can succeed there, you will crush it. When you go to England, I love England for doing business. A, they pay in pounds. B, like you go to your lawyer in America here, right? If I go to my lawyer and say, I need that urgently, they'll have it back to me in an hour. You go to your lawyer in Australia and say, I need that urgently, they'll have it back to you within 24 hours. You go to your lawyer in England and say, I need that urgently, they'll say, I'll have it to you next week. You know, it's like there's just a different time frame. So you go to England, if you're in Australia, you go to England, it's just like, how do you make more money? Well, you just do the same as we do in Australia, and it's faster than anyone over here does it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think Aussie entrepreneurs, and I remember giving a speech at Small Business Week down there talking about that, and just really encourage Australian entrepreneurs to spread outside of Australia.
I agree. We've got some of the highest lead generation costs in the world as well through social channels. Yeah. So if we look at trends, like where do you think business is going in the next 5 to 10 years? Like what do you see happening in the business landscape in the next 5 to 10 years?
Let's look at it on a global scale first and foremost. So the Americas is about 1 billion people. Africa's about 1 billion. Europe's about 1 billion. Asia's 4 billion, right? India is more than 50% of the population is millennials, because India's healthcare system about 30 years ago started to come real strong. So you had a decrease in deaths at birth. You had all of that stuff. So you got this massive, India's going through its baby boom generation now, right? So we see that. We see Africa where healthcare systems are starting to come online now. So 30 years from now, you're going to see Africa in a totally different environment financially. Add all of that together and you start to say, well, where are the big money plays right now? India's a big money play. China's aged out and you know, there's no more baby boom coming out of China. It's 2 baby families. That's it sort of thing. As one dies, one comes in. Japan, same. US, same. Australia, same. So India is sort of the big play if you're going on an international scale. Then Africa would be after that. Africa is going to be the new China. It's just a matter of getting through all the political and turmoil stuff that's going on down there. But that's why China's investing so much money in Africa too.
Yeah.
They see it that way. China's going to have a slight challenge in the next 10 to 20 years called an economic recession for one simple reason. 80% of the country still lives in abject poverty, and they're going to get annoyed with the 20% that's got all the money. That's going to happen as this generation moves through and sees what's going on, because they've got a cell phone. They can see what's going on across the country. But India has about 10 million people per year moving from poverty to middle class. That means 10 million people. So we went from the agrarian age, where England won the agrarian age worldwide because England had the most land, India, Australia, Canada, and most of the US, and then they lost the US, obviously. US won the first half of the industrial age by inventing steel and cars and electricity and petrol and all that sort of stuff. Japanese won the second half of the industrial age by VCRs and TVs and all of that technological products that they sold to the entire world and made a fortune from. America won the first part of the information age and is still winning because of Silicon Valley and Hollywood. They're the two things that are winning that for America. But you've got to see that the vast majority of the world has moved back into the industrial age. So that's why you're getting massive fortunes in steel and all of these things in China, in India, and now in Africa. We're getting infrastructure build, because Europe doesn't care about infrastructure. They've had roads for thousands of years. You know, America, 200 years, Australia, 200 years, Asia's building roads and trains and stuff like never before. Like you go to the airports go to Malaysia, you go to the airport, you go, this thing's way better than any airport in any other part of the world. Yeah, they're investing a lot of money in infrastructure in Asia and in Africa. So, answer with all of that big stuff, where is business going? I would say three things. We are removing humans as much as possible from especially the sales process. The more you can remove humans from the sales process, the better the business will be. All Uber did was remove humans from the taxi business. You don't have to call a person who then gets on a dispatcher and then who calls another idiot who doesn't turn up. You know, it's removed all that. Airbnb, it just removed humans from the VRBO, vacation rental by owner.com. You know, we see this time and time again. McDonald's is doing it. Everywhere's doing it, removing humans from the sales process. Literally all Amazon did was remove humans from the process of needing you don't have to talk to someone at the checkout anymore. You just go, click, done. Oh, I don't have to see another human. It'll turn up at my house. So we're seeing that. Second thing I see is that any business that can't be beaten by the internet's a great business. So for instance, I bought into a commercial cleaning business. Why? Can't beat me on the internet with commercial cleaning. No one can click a button and have their office cleaned or their gymnasium cleaned. You've got to have a human come in and actually do it. I'm looking at buying a pest control company. Why? You've got to have a bloke turn up and spray some stuff around the house. You can't just click the button and have it done. So I'm liking any non-internet businesses, traditional businesses, because, see, people always say to me, oh, I'm going to invent the latest, newest, bestest, greatest, wonderful thing. And I say, well, study Zappos. Zappos.com sold shoes, right? They didn't sell a new shoe. They didn't sell their own shoe. They didn't sell any other shoe. They just found a better way of selling shoes that made it easy for you to buy shoes. iTunes just found a better way of selling music than the record store, where I had to pay $30 for a CD where it had 10 awful songs and 2 good ones. Yeah. You know, now I pay $2 and I get the 2 good ones. Yeah. You know, so that's a big part of it. Third thing I see is that we're moving to a far more virtual business world, where, you know, I'll give you an example. We're building ClickFunnels for a whole bunch of my business, and the young guy, because I know for a simple fact that the market that I go after for bradsugars.com, the millennial market that are hungry for knowledge, because that's who's hungry for it. You know, the grey-haired no-heads are no longer hungry for knowledge. It's the millennials who are hungry for it because they don't know how. You know, and they love to learn. Well, my team bought me marketing for the millennials, and I looked at it and went, oh, that's great. Hang on. I liked it. Pretty sure if I like it, it's not going to work to the millennial generation. Pretty sure if I like it, it'll be bloody awful to those people. So, of course, I spin around and I go and find a young guy who's 26. His company has 13 virtual employees. They all work for themselves on contract. They all work from home offices or WeWorks or wherever the heck they are. And literally not one of them is older than him. And so he's the oldest at 26 or 27, whatever his age is. And he does this stuff for me. And I look at it and go, that's bloody awful. But, oh, my God, it sells like anything. So you sit there and go, grey hair, no hair, We don't understand that market, so do that. That's a big part of it. Harnessing the millennials is something a business person's got to look to do. You got to harness millennials, and anyone that's fighting the millennial generation is just stupid. Every generation has always bitched and moaned about the generation 2 removed. They've all said, oh, they're the laziest, worst generation ever. Yeah, these millennials, they're the laziest, worst generation ever. They're finding ways to do stuff that you and I could never even dream of, because they don't think like us of having to do it. They just think of getting it done. And, millennials are not about buying stuff. They don't want to buy a house. They don't want the mortgage and the pains that they saw their parents go through. They want to rent a place. And as a property investor, I'm like, yeah, keep renting. Good job. I love that. But I love the millennial generation. I see them changing our world rapidly, getting rid of plastic cups and straws and all sorts of things that are going to change the world for a better place. Because what we have to remember is the millennials are actually the first generation that have had to physically contemplate the reality of there possibly not being a planet. Yeah. None of us have ever had to worry about that until about 10 years ago, when all of a sudden Al Gore runs around the world going, we're dying. Yeah. And even if you agree with him or not, it doesn't matter if you agree with him or not, you actually have to think about it. Yeah. Damn, that's something we got to think about. So you see a generation creating things that I couldn't do it, but I love hiring them. Love hiring them.
And I guess with the connectivity of the interwebs these days as well, it's like we're so present with all the things that are happening all over the world. It's no longer just noticing what's going on in your own backyard. We're seeing what's going on in the backyard, the other side of the world. And therefore it's causing this change, purpose-driven change from the millennials. And
that's what in my latest book, one of the sections on there, the 5 disciplines is pulling profits out of a hat. The 5th discipline is the discipline of mission. And that connectivity of human connectivity is so vital for massive growth businesses today. And you watch what you just said, the purpose-driven change that businesses are having to do, carbon footprint, and I think carbon tax is stupid, but the understanding that the market is driving this, governments don't need to drive it. The market is driving exactly that.
So with all that being said, how do you see that impacting ActionCOACH and the vision that you guys have for that business over the next 10 years?
Well, phenomenally well. I'll tell you why. The world is getting more and more entrepreneurial. This generation, the millennial generation, are more entrepreneurial than any generation before them, except those who were born before 1900. Here's an interesting question for you. 1920, how many people had their own business versus worked for the man? No idea. Everyone had their own business. So we went from in the 1920s, and this is why I love history. I love studying the history of business, because in the 1920s, everyone, before the World War, right? Before World War I, everyone had their own small business. They ran their own little shop, their own little business, and did all that sort of stuff. Come the World War, and all of a sudden there's these production changes, and people are moving to the cities. And that's where we went to, boxing food and canned food rather than getting it from the guy down the street who actually grew it. Now you had to have it in cans, in boxes. You had to preserve foods. You had to have all of these things started to change. The food industry changed. Cars were invented, steel for refrigeration, electricity, all this stuff led to 1954, I believe. The book was written called The Company Man, which literally said you should work for the company, be good, do as you're told, work for the company, get a good job, stay there for the rest of your life. And then all of a sudden, and if we go back to the baby boom generation, they were 100% get the job, stay there, rest of your life, pay off your own home, because they went through the Depression and all that stuff. Gen X, my generation, were the first generation to not have to darn socks. Now, I'll tell you why that's important. The baby boomers learned to think for themselves. They were thinkers because they grew up on farms or with their own small business or with something where they had to actually do it. And if the mower broke down, they had to fix it. These days, see, the millennial generation, what the baby boomers hate about the millennial generation is they're the throw-out generation. Phone broke. Oh, shit, don't worry about fixing it. Go get a new one. It was just the screen. I don't care. I'll go get a new one. I'll throw this one out. Now, this changed gradually. Socks became cheap in the 1980s, 1990s. We didn't fix the holes in our socks. In fact, we didn't even fix the holes in our jeans. We were that cool that Generation X, we actually made holes in our jeans. We didn't even not fix it. We made extra ones. See, and so Gen X was the first generation to not have to learn to fix things. We still did shop class. We still did home economics. So we learnt to build, but we didn't really have to. Gen Y, by the time Gen Y came through, we didn't have shop class. We didn't have home economics anymore in school. In fact, in many schools, they even got rid of sports and stuff. You know, so you start to see a massive shift in Gen Y never fixed anything other than computers. You know, they just no, get a new one. Millennials, they don't even know what fixing looks like. You know, I know here at my own home, my groundsman, Carlos, my youngest son, I think he's 5 now, but when he was 4, I said, oh, we need to fix that. What do we do, son? He said, oh, we'll get Carlos. I'm like, what about Dad?
We'll
Dad
Google
can't
it.
fix anything? No, Carlos fixes everything, Dad.
We'll Google it.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. We don't have to think for ourselves anymore. We don't have to remember stuff anymore. We don't have to, because there's no debates at dinner anymore.
Yeah.
Like debating has been ruined by Google. Do you remember when you used to sit at the pub and you'd, no, he was the best player ever. He had the best stats. No, I don't think you're right. No, I don't think he's the best player ever. Let me see. Oh, shut up. Now you've ruined the entire debate. We have to go on to something else.
Hey, Google. Yeah.
So,
all right. So a couple of things. I'd love to know
hang on. The reason I say it's great for Action Coach, more and more entrepreneurs, more and more people wanting to learn business.
Yeah. Provided that they continue to move into the era of actually being willing to get over themselves and take on board advice.
Younger generation is so fast and willing to take advice. The older generation are the strugglers with that.
Yeah.
This young generation, I see them turning up at my seminars now. I go and give seminars, and it used to be full of grey-haired no-heads. Now it's full of young people. Full of young people. And they're all excited like anything to learn, how do I build my own business? Our foundation, the Action Coach Foundation, we teach for free young kids in school, like high school age kids. We teach them business, how to be an employer, not an employee.
Yeah.
And I love that. I remember I was doing a speech for the World Bank and helping them work through Marshall Goldsmith with the World Bank. And we're talking with them about programs for governments to help create employers, not employees, entrepreneurs, not job seekers. It's an amazing, amazing world we're moving into.
Yeah, totally agree. Exciting times ahead. You know, like we've never been in an easier time to be successful in business, but in the same time too, it's as difficult because you've got international competition.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's got the ability to the same resources. So it's this kind of dichotomy of it's never been easier, but it's never been more difficult as well, which... Marketing's
the same. Marketing's never been easier. You can hit a target audience with the drop of a hat. You can needle in a haystack your marketing today. Whereas before, you had to have a ton of money and throw the biggest ad in Yellow Pages.
Yeah, but so can your competition. The guy next door can do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, not if you outbid him on Google AdWords, though. So, you know.
I guess
the thing about marketing today is it's shifted so brilliantly well. You know the two most important things in marketing today? Rankings and testimonials.
Reviews.
What's your rankings? What's your ratings? What's your reviews out there in the marketplace? And what's your testimonials out there in the marketplace? I had to learn that the hard way. When the internet first got popular, we didn't ask our best customers to tell the world how good we are. We didn't ask them to rate us or review us or do any of that stuff. So the only people that ever said anything about us were the ones complaining. So, you know, you get one person complain and that's the only voice out there. Nowadays, you know, I look at my Facebook where I got hundreds of people giving me 5 stars and it's like, yeah, you can throw any arrows you want at me now, but look at all these. Do you know what I mean? Now, we just finished our net promoter score and our customers rate us at a 78. 78 net promoter score is like God status.
Industry, you know? Well above industry standard. Yeah.
I like to say God status. It just feels better for me.
God status.
Oh, buddy, the one thing I know is that our marketing is almost always about our clients. Our marketing is always about how great our clients are and how they've achieved things. We don't do, you know, the story of your business needs to be about the hero of your business, and the hero of your business is your customer.
Always your customer.
If the hero of your business is you, you're going to die in marketing. Yeah,
I agree. So tell us about your new book, Pulling Profits Out of a Hat.
Other than the fact it's damn big and damn long, and but I had to do that because what I had to do was actually give people not only the what to do, why to do it, but the actual how-tos. And go through what does it take to get exponential growth in a business. You see, the mindset of most business people, like if you imagine, Barry, before Billionaire in Training, your mindset versus after Billionaire in Training. See, most people's mindset is like 10 or 20 or 30% growth a year. Right? And I go into them and I say, well, what about 10 or 20 or 30 times growth a year? How could we get you doing 30 times growth? And they look at me and go, well, we can't. I said, well, maybe you should read this book.
Yeah.
So it's the multiplying factor that we look to teach people rather than just the percentage growth factor.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. Which the business chassis in the business coach book very much the multiplication factor across those 5 key sectors as well. So
yeah, if people have not learnt my 5 ways to grow a business, they should YouTube Brad Sugar's 5 ways to grow a business. Jump on YouTube and search that one. That will blow your mind.
Yeah. So before we totally agree. I remember Jay Abraham said, "Oh, there's 3 ways to grow a business," and Brad Sugar said, "No, there's actually 5."
I love Jay. I love working with him. He's a crazy man.
Yeah. So, mate, before we wrap things up, I'd love to know what's the 3 best bits of advice you've ever been given? They might have been from your inspirational father, from a mentor or a friend, but what are the 3 best bits of information you've ever been given?
Number 1 by far, Jim Rohn, who said, "Never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and read a book a week for the rest of your life." Those 3 things from Jim. The read a book a week for the rest of your life changed the course of my life, because every week I read another book. I was Dimmick's best customer at Indooroopilly there. At Indooroopilly Shopping Town, Dimmick's, they loved me. Every time I walked in there, I'd buy half a dozen books on business and success and stuff like that. I just kept reading, because you can't out-earn your learning. You just can't do that. I think the second thing that best piece of advice is communication better be the number 1 skill you've got, because if you learn to communicate, you can solve any problem. You can work with your team, you can work with your customers, you can work with anybody. You've got to be a good communicator in business. You just have to be. And third, very, very simple. Your people build your business, you don't. So you better build your people if you want them to build your business. And if you can't be bothered building your people, don't employ them.
Yeah.
I was just in my office today, and I don't go in my office that much, but there's 2 new employees. So I sat down with them and just said, are you guys studying all of the work that we have here for you? Are you learning? Are you doing because everyone has a learning track in our companies. And if you're not on the learning track, then you better get on it fast. And they were telling me what they've learned since they've worked there. I said, good, keep going.
Fantastic.
So
fantastic. I love that you look after your people look after your clients, and your clients in turn look after your business. So yeah, love that. So
cycle of business.
Cycle of business. Anyone out there watching or listening today that'd like to get in contact with you to learn?
Any form of social media, buddy. I'm on Face, Insta, Twitter, you name it. I'm out there on it. LinkedIn. Come join me on LinkedIn. I'm not on Pinterest though. Not on Pinterest though. Or bradsugars.com or actioncoach.com. I kind of make it pretty easy for people to find us out there.
Fantastic. Brad, mate, it's been a pleasure. We've covered a lot in a very short period of time. I loved having you on board. Anyone out there watching or listening, share, like, and comment. What was your top takeaway from today's interview? And if you'd love to get Brad back, let us know what you'd like to know, and we'll see about making that happen.
And can I add one last thing? I listened to a few interviews on the weekend, and anyone who's not subscribed to your podcast, if this is your first one with Barry, subscribe, hit this button now, follow, do that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, Brad.
Take care.
If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business, and a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick 15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through the 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1 hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call. We can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Brad Bodidi, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon.